Yo, what's up, guys? Loper and Damon Martin here. It's Fight Society Podcast. We got to get some different music. You know, I feel like this is like mid-card wrestling status music. You know, you're not like the best. You're like Crush from back in the 90s, you know?
Kona Crush or Crush from Demolition?
Demolition Crush.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know, Kona Crush. Who's that?
That was the same guy. He came out, he had like a Hawaiian gimmick for a
that's
while.
right. Yeah, it was like Sad Crush days. Yeah. Like Crush went pop.
Yeah, Kona Crush, I think it was like his name. Kona Crush.
Dude, how metal was Demolition? I want to dress like Demolition at Rock on the Range next year.
They were awesome. They had a metal song,
badass.
too. Do you remember their intro song?
Here comes the axe, and here comes the smasher. They were letting you know they were about to come whip that ass, and they were going to let you know in fashion.
They were metal, and they had like the dominatrix outfits on.
Yeah,
like,
and then suggestive as all get out. It's like the Road Warriors times a million.
Like the spiked collars and everything. Like they had the spiked, the one dude had like the spiked like leather outfits on.
Yeah, Axe was like a little more suggestive because he was like older. He was like weird, like bear style, you know? Like Vince was like, yeah, what we need is like the Road Warriors, but more suggestive. X-rated.
We need the leather daddies.
Can you make it gayer? No offense, just, you know, just saying.
Oh my God.
But I loved it. I mean, like, what does that say? Who cares?
So true.
I'm about that life, man.
Demolition.
Wait a second. I'm about that demolition liking life. I want to be very clear when I say that. I've never been into like getting spanked or anything like that. That's never been my thing. My wife, I think people think we have this crazy, we have a great, amazing, like pretty ridiculous sex life. But like not, I know some people that are like, you know, they're spending a little extra time at the love store. You know what I'm saying? And they're bringing home like more leather than you should be buying at Harley Davidson, like a lot of leather.
You know
like,
what? It's funny.
Where are you wearing that leather?
It's usually the people that are more reserved that you don't expect to do it are the ones who are absolutely doing it.
No, you know what it is? It's because my wife and I, you know, we do this. Like we do a talk show together every day on like regular radio in Columbus, Ohio. So, you know, most of our life it's you know, our relationship is based on joking around with each other. That's how we met and everything. So like everything's like, you know, a joke and a prank. I just can't imagine, you know, being dressed up like Demolition Axe and being serious for more than 30 seconds. So, I don't know, just be tough.
Yeah. You know, to each their own. That's what I say.
Wait, I feel like maybe we are uncovering something right now. Are you Demolition in the bedroom?
I am not Demolition in the bedroom.
I would love you just come busting through the door. Here comes the smasher. Go Demolition. And then you start grinding because like that song was really porny if you remember. Like
it was
into the.
But it was badass at the same time. It was
it was very badass.
Like little metal. Because remember, the Road Warriors used to walk out to Iron Man from Black Sabbath. That used to be their entrance.
What was that about? Like outside of the WWE or F at the time? Like, by the way, this is an MMA podcast. Yeah. What was it that? Outside of that, even NWA, they could walk out to like whatever. They didn't care about copywritten songs. Who cares?
I think that was before the days when people would get sued for using those copywritten
Maybe because
songs.
Vince's show is on all over the country.
Yeah.
But that's Vince, though. Metal and sex and real flashy stuff and built dudes. Like, that's like his gimmick. That's
I mean, what was the whole thing? They had
be a billionaire.
They had that for the longest time. Jerry Lawler with the puppies. Like, that was
the puppies is ridiculous. It's so funny, that whole thing.
Like, when you talk about like where we're at in today's day and age of like, you know, equality and things like that. Like some of the shit they did in WWE back in the day would so not fly today. Like, have you seen the Netflix series Glow yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, you got to watch it. It's amazing.
I've seen the trailer.
It's amazing. It's all set in the 80s, based, you know, very loosely around the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, the real 1980s like pro wrestling league. And like they talk about like the stereotypes of all the characters, and it's so bad, but so true of like what they did back in the 80s. Like there's a character that's like called the Welfare Queen. Like they just go right for it, you know what I mean? And like they go for all the really bad stereotypes. But that's exactly what they did back in the 80s. I mean, think about it. You know what I mean? Think about the characters from WWE that were like so stereotypically bad. Like
look at Sheamus.
Yeah.
Like he's got to be like some over the top Irish dude just because he's from Ireland.
The Godfather, for Christ's sake, he was a pimp.
The Ho Train is That was awesome.
The Ho Train, exactly.
And like brought the whole pimp outfit back in the 90s.
Exactly. So, dude, when you think about all the just horribly stereotypical wrestling outfits and wrestling monikers from back in the day, holy shit.
Hey, so I was I called some fights for Flow Grappling.
Oh, yeah, I saw the
last week.
Fight to, what was it called?
Fight to Win.
Fight to Win.
It was Fight to Win 41 here in Columbus. And we, it was cool to watch. You know, it was a lot of fun to watch that. And it's fun doing the play-by-play. And I ran into Dan Spahn. And speaking of commentators, who's doing the play-by-play with Paul Felder on Dana White's Tuesday Night Fights?
I can't remember his name. He's a new guy they just brought in for this. I can't remember his name, but I can look it up. But yeah.
It's interesting. So, like, with that announce team, they're bringing like a whole new style into the sport, don't you think?
Yeah, they're doing. It's this guy, and then he's switching between Eve Edwards and Paul Felder. They have those two.
Oh, I haven't heard Eve on that.
Yeah, so Eve was on this week, and then Paul Felder will be on next week. They're alternating weeks, basically. And then you have the Snoop cast, which is Uriah Faber and Snoop Dogg.
So that's just two different audio feeds?
Two different audio feeds. On Fight Pass, you just select which audio feed you want.
That's hilarious. So I didn't realize that's how that was working.
Yeah,
okay.
So you have options. You have two options.
So what do you listen to?
I go back and forth. This week, I was just on the regular commentary because I'm a huge Eve Edwards fan. He's been a friend of mine for more than a decade, and I really like him getting this opportunity, so I wanted to see how he did. And
Is
I thought
Snoop
he did a
too
great
much?
job. No. Snoop's hilarious. I watched the first week with Snoop, and there's something to be said for, like, okay, when you watch commentary and you want a guy to be able to pronounce names, like, Kazushi Sakuraba, for instance.
Right.
We talked about that last week. But then there's the other side where Snoop is like just the casual fan, and he clearly doesn't know everything that's going on, but the way he describes things is hilarious. Like there's a balance, you know what I mean? Like there's a real delicate balance where like we know he's not professional. We know he's not there to be Brian Stan or Joe Rogan, you know what I mean? Take it for what it's worth, and it's hilarious. It's kind of my point. And then you got Faber, who plays a little bit more of the straight man, actually explaining what's going on, and then like hearing Snoop reacting is just hilarious.
But it's perfect because he's not like too straight. Because with somebody like if you put Goldberg in there, somebody that plays it a little more rigid, you would have a hard time. Like, yeah, that's right, Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, and they're not calling Jones Cormier. I mean, they're calling 5 contender fights a week. It's pretty funny.
Oh no, he got shoes on. Like that's why I was watching Snoop Dogg talk about Daniel Cormier. It was like his highlight reel.
Oh
or something
my god,
like
that was hilarious.
I love that so much.
Yeah, when they announced it, I was kind of like, okay, this is an interesting experiment. But then when I saw it, because those videos they did when they showed him fighting, when they showed him doing highlights of like Anthony Johnson.
Yes.
Oh, he's like, oh, he out. Yeah.
I love Snoop Dogg will always claim somebody's cheating.
Yeah, and then he does like the sound effects. He's like, bam.
It is going to be ridiculous though, because like Snoop Dogg's going to evolve into like the ultimate mixed martial arts commentator.
It's hilarious.
It's going to be Joe Rogan and Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, when they announced it, I was kind of like, okay, this is interesting, but I gave it a chance because the videos they did with him were hilarious, and then. It's been pretty funny. I mean, it's been pretty funny. He sits back there and drinks gin and juice and smokes.
That's awesome. Is Uriah in the same room with him?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they're both drinking by the time the main event comes around.
That's why Uriah had to actually retire, because otherwise he'd get popped by USADA just hanging out with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, seriously. But it's pretty hilarious. I give him credit. Like I said, it's something different. It's something fun, and it's 5 fights a week, and it's like the Contender Series. And to the UFC's credit, they're not telling you have to watch it. It's just an option to watch it. You have the real commentary team, and then you have the fun commentary team. I think it's kind of a fun experiment. Like a lot of times these days, when I'm not like specifically working an event like for prelims or even like replays, Joe Rogan does his Fight Companion podcast,
which are
like
awesome,
with him and Schaub and all those guys. And those are hilarious. I like watching those during the fights. You know what I mean? Those are hilarious. Like it's just a different feel than your standard commentary. I enjoy it. It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, I mean, like we all love fights. I'll be honest with you. Matt Brown had that idea. I want to say Matt Brown and I, we talked about that like 2 years before they did that.
That's an alternate commentary team?
Yeah, and I'm just like, here's what well, obviously I'm not as famous as Joe Rogan, so that doesn't work. But all I'm saying is don't let stuff sit on the shelf.
Yeah.
That after that, I'm like, I'm getting everything out. In no way am I implying that they ever stole that idea, by the way. Anybody can have that idea. But we were like, yeah, we should all do that. It'd be fun. With Matt's popularity, we could draw some people.
Right.
we sat on it, didn't do it. In those days, it was a little bit harder, but that's an excuse, right? So, that's all I'm saying is don't sit on your ideas.
Yeah.
People say all the time,
You never know what'll come of it. You never know what'll come of it. Throw it out there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Now, here's the thing. I love throwing it out there, right? So John Jones throws a comment out there that he would be up for fighting Brock Lesnar. Then Brock Lesnar responds on Twitter. What's the deal with this?
So there's been rumors that Brock is contemplating a comeback to the sport.
I know, and I get pumped.
Yeah. So the rumor is, and I'm not sure. I'm not saying it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. What this ultimately comes down to, I think, is a negotiating tactic on Brock's part to figure out where he's going to go. Now, do I think he would come back to the UFC? Absolutely. What I'm saying is I think his contract with WWE is apparently up early next year. And so the idea, I think, is to find out how badly they want to keep him or if he can come back to the UFC. Now, in the short term, he'll make more money with the UFC. I mean, if he'll come back and do a couple pay-per-views and he wins, he's going to make, double. I mean, I think the rumor I heard was he makes like $5 million a year from WWE, which is good money considering how little work he has.
So you're saying if he comes back to the Fed, he'll make more money with
no.
WWE.
If he comes back with UFC in one fight, he'll make as much as he made in 1 year with WWE.
Oh, okay. But
if he fights John Jones, he'll end up making between 10 and 15 million easy. One fight, you know what I mean? And that's 2 or 3 years in WWE. So I think if WWE signs him, they're going to have to up his contract. They're going to up his pay, and you know what I mean? That kind of thing. But when I say it's a negotiating tactic, I'm saying I think part of it is that, but I also think part of it is Brock likes fighting. Brock really does like fighting, and I think that whole situation with Mark Hunt left a bad taste in his mouth. He didn't really get the satisfaction that he wanted. He wanted to come back and kind of prove himself. He did, but then the whole drug testing thing happened, and now there's the possibility of fighting John Jones, which I think, in theory, would be the biggest UFC fight in history. I really do. Because right now, I think Conor and Diaz hold the record at 1.5 million buys.
Oh, this will blow it away.
I think Lesnar and John Jones, the greatest fighter of all time, John Jones, against Brock Lesnar. Oh, my God, it would be huge.
It's going to be interesting to see as John Jones returns, and fingers crossed, everything goes his way. I'm a fan. It's going to be interesting to see how Conor McGregor fits into that space.
Yeah.
Where he's occupied that air that Anderson Silva once occupied. Yeah. That John Jones then took the throne after the Weidman knockout in the second defeat. Where it was like, okay, well, John Jones is the guy.
Yeah.
No question, John Jones is the guy. And then all of a sudden, all this trouble. And remember, when this happened, we were like, all right, fine. John's going to be out for a year. He'll be back. And then it was like more trouble. It was like, whoa, dude. And then he had the OSP fight, which so many people scrutinized John Jones for. But I never did, because I always thought that fight, OSP is dangerous. Obviously any guy at 205 pounds is a dangerous person.
Yeah.
And John Jones wasn't originally going to fight Ovince St. Preux. So I think that the way that he handled that fight is the way he had to. Imagine if he would have, in some freak accident, gets knocked out against Ovince St. Preux, like what that does to his legacy.
Well, I also think with that fight, you have to remember, the end result was a 50-45. It wasn't like it was a close fight.
Right, no, I agree. But everybody wanted to see that because they hadn't seen John Jones.
And John Jones is so good. You know what I mean? Like, you figure guys like Gustafsson and Cormier and maybe an Anthony Johnson, in theory, would give him, a tougher fight. But when you get outside that top 5, you expect John Jones to do what he did to Brian Bader when he just ragdolled him and then choked him out. It was just like, it wasn't even a contest. You know what I mean? What he did, those guys. What he did to Rampage Jackson when he just literally toyed with him, and then put him away when he wanted to put him away. That's the kind of performance you want. And Ovince St. Preux, no offense to Ovince St. Preux, but Ovince St. Preux is a number 7 light heavyweight. That's not an offensive thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think there's a million guys out there who would kill to be a number 7 light heavyweight. But he's a number 7 light heavyweight. And this is John Jones, the greatest fighter of all time, the greatest talent this sport has ever known. And you want him to go out there and just murk this dude. And when he doesn't do it,
that drop off in the ocean, man. After the 4th or 5th guy, it's a huge drop.
Yeah,
right.
And so when John Jones goes out there, you want John. It would be like the Patriots, who I can't stand, but let's just say Tom Brady, who is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Let's just say they're playing a team that's not in the Super Bowl. They're playing the Bengals, God, my favorite team, or the Browns. You know what I mean? You expect them to go out there and beat them 50-10. You know, you expect them to do it. And when they don't, and when it's a close game, it's like 28-24. You're like, what the hell's going on? Why is this competitive? And so then immediately all the critics are out there like, what's going on with the Patriots? Tom Brady's finally getting old.
Yeah,
Belichick's
winning's not good enough.
Yeah, and so that's, I think, and in the NFL, you move from week to week. So let's say the Patriots have a bad game against the Browns. They only win 28-24. Then the next week they go out against, I don't know, I'm just like, whoever, like another top team, and they blow them out. They beat them 48-0. Then immediately everyone forgets. But in MMA, you don't get that chance because the last time we saw John Jones was against OSP. We haven't seen him since then.
When was that? Just to remind
April
people.
of last year.
April of 2016.
Yeah, so it's been well over a year. And it wasn't, when I say it wasn't his best night, it wasn't classic John Jones. He didn't go out there and dominate the way he did so many other guys in a fashion that you would expect the greatest of all time to do. It's like Anderson Silva going out there and having those kind of weird performances against Thales Leites and Patrick Cote and things like that, where you're like, what's going on? Why is he not just destroying these guys? You know what I mean? They're not on his level. Why is he not just walking through these dudes? And so it wasn't a bad performance because he won 50-45. What do you really want? He dominated the fight, but just not in the way you expect John Jones to dominate an opponent like that. So,
and maybe that's the key to longevity. Taking those shots early in his career to get to those pivotal moments to finish the fight early. Yeah. Maybe not being in those dangerous moments as you get older. But you have saying I'm 30, and which is really a backhanded slam towards Daniel Cormier, who's going to be 40 very soon, and John's over here acting like, I'm getting kind of old. I'm going to be. He's just reminding him, dude, I'm super in prime right now.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thing. I remember that night I was at that fight when he fought OSP. And Daniel Cormier was on commentary because Daniel had gotten injured.
That's right. Yeah.
Daniel was on commentary, and I was over on press row, and I'm typing up my article, whatever, and Daniel comes over by press row, and he stops right by my seat, and he looks at me, and he just goes, fuck, I should have been in there. I would have beat him tonight. He knew it in his head. If he had fought that John Jones, he would have won that night. And that's why this rematch is very interesting, because the last performance we had to judge John Jones by was not necessarily his best night at the office, and now it's been another year. It's been a year and a half, basically, since he's fought. And that was after he was off for a year the last time. Remember, he fought in January when he beat Cormier. Then he had that whole hit-and-run accident in, April, and he was supposed to fight Johnson in May. That whole thing got canceled. He came back the following April, so he had been out for about a year and 3 months at that point, and that was the performance we got. Now he's been out again for about a year and 4 months. You can't not bring that up. You can't not think, could he have another not great night at the office? Because you can have a not great night at the office and beat Ovince St. Preux, no offense, the number 7 guy in the world. You cannot have an off night at the office and beat Daniel Cormier, who I believe is one of the greatest fighters of all time.
Absolutely. And he's definitely the greatest light heavyweight of all time in this lifetime if John Jones didn't exist. But he's the Utah Jazz. Man.
He's the Karl Malone right now. You know what I mean? Like when Malone and Stockton were the best.
Yeah.
And they just Malone. But then they had freaking Michael Jordan. They couldn't get past Michael Jordan. That's where he's at right now. He's in that Barkley, Malone, that era where Jordan was killing everybody. And you forget, oh my God, Charles Barkley never got a title. Karl Malone, well, I guess eventually he did get a title, but you know what I mean? During that era when he was like the other guy, but they had Jordan there. That's where Cormier is at. He is in that role where he is the best guy in the world, but there's Michael Jordan, and his name is John Jones. And that's the problem. And so that's what this weekend's fight is all about. Can he finally get over that hump? Can he beat him? And listen, this is Michael Jordan coming back from playing from baseball for a year.
He looks like the meanest Michael Jordan on the planet. Are you kidding me? With that bald head now. Yeah. He's got just the hint of a goatee. It almost looks like a taller, skinnier, way more shredded. Well, actually, back in the day, Rampage Jackson. I don't know what to even compare John Jones. Maybe you can't compare him. He just looks like a different John Jones. He looks like he's not effing around anymore. Yeah. Like parts of his life have been taken away, and he's coming to take it out of Cormier. And I love Daniel Cormier. I think he's a terrific person. He's from New Orleans. A great family guy. I'm a huge John Jones fan too. Well, this fight is, it's going to really determine who the best in the absolute world is, because I think even in heavyweight, this could be for the heavyweight championship.
Well, the thing about this fight, beyond the fact that it's an epic rivalry between two guys who clearly don't like each other, and then you also have the skill set where you have Daniel Cormier, who is far and away the number one guy not named John Jones, and you have John Jones, who is, as I've said numerous times, the greatest of all time, bar none in my opinion. No offense to Anderson Silva, Demetrius Johnson, anyone else that's out there. John Jones is the greatest fighter in the history of this sport. When you put those two kind of combustible elements together, it makes for a great fight. Then, when you add on the extra elements, for Daniel Cormier, I mean, if he loses to John Jones a second time, I have a hard time believing Daniel Cormier continues fighting. I mean, what else does he have to fight for? He beat Johnson twice. He beat Gustafsson.
What about a heavyweight? What if he goes back up to heavyweight?
I don't know because of Kane. Because Kane's, that's his boy. And I don't
he's
know
coming back?
In theory, I mean, he's always in theory coming back, but I just don't. He's 38. Daniel's 38. He's going to be 39 next year. He's coming up. He's got a career outside the octagon with his commentary gigs and things like that. I think if he loses to John Jones the second time, you really wonder what is it, because he's not going to get a third fight with John Jones at that point. What is it? What is it all going to be for? You know what I mean? So I have a feeling if he loses, that might be it for him.
What about Daniel Cormier against Brock Lesnar at heavyweight?
Oh, there's all kinds of possibilities, but I just don't know if he'd want to do it. I think his goal, because Daniel told me something a couple weeks ago when I talked to him. He doesn't want to go down as the greatest light heavyweight of all time. He doesn't want to go down as the guy who's the one blemish on John Jones's record. He wants to go down as the greatest ever. And I think he has a unique possibility of doing that if he can beat John Jones this weekend.
Strikeforce champion.
He puts himself in that kind of rarefied air. But the flip side is if he loses, where does he go? And then for John Jones, hit and run accident, tested positive.
For dick bills,
gets pulled over for drag racing. Has that really ugly incident? With the cop. All these different things.
I forgot about the ugly incident with the cop.
Yeah,
did he get in trouble for that though?
He ended up. I think he got like some. He got his probation got reinstated, but something happened where he got fined again. I think he couldn't drive at that point. Gotcha. They revoked his license. But yes, he had all this stuff, and then you wonder, John coming back. Can John be the same guy? I had this theory a year ago, and I brought it up to both guys when it was going into the OSP fight, and it was a very honest question because when Tiger Woods was living his life, banging 30 chicks a week and doing all the crazy shit he was doing.
I think he calls it the good old days.
Yeah, he was winning the Masters. He was winning the British Open. He was the greatest golfer in the world. He got busted. Now, he did the classic celebrity thing when he got busted. I'm so sorry. I should have never done it. I was trapped in a cycle of demons, and if God can forgive me, I'll blah 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 blah. I'm gonna go to rehab.
All right, but then don't ruin all the good excuses.
Then he cleaned up. He cleaned up his life because publicly people are going to scrutinize him. Everyone's going to watch his every move. So he can't go out and go whoring anymore. You know what I mean? He can't go out and and be the gigolo. He can't go out and get a bunch of women.
Fucking sucks, dude. If you're Tiger Woods and that's your thing, oh man.
So that gets cut. Now he has to be the home guy. He has to be the homebody. He has to be. And guess what? Where's Tiger Woods at now?
Yeah, I think there's more at play there.
There is.
I think there's more at play there.
But when you have a certain lifestyle and you live it and you thrive during it and it's taken away from you or people will not allow you to be that guy anymore, then something changes. Because I'm not begrudging guys who deal with alcohol and drugs. I'm not begrudging that because when you clean your life up, you absolutely should. But I think there's a certain lifestyle choice, partying, women, whatever the case may be. And those are addictive things as well. John Jones was at his best during that time when he was partying, when he was out drinking, when he was doing all these things. And now he's cleaned his life up. And I commend him for that. That's a thing that you should applaud. Good for you, John Jones. But you have to wonder how much of that can play back into his performances. Now, I hope, as the greatest talent that this sport has ever known, none of that will affect him.
I don't think it will. And I'll tell you why I don't think it will. I think that John Jones, from a financial standpoint, completely understands. Having to sit by and watch this Conor McGregor Express take off and watch this guy not only do epic things in mixed martial arts, but to transcend the sport, to go and box the greatest boxer of our generation, to set up the greatest super fight of all time. I think that John Jones, from a maturity standpoint, I think he knows where he is. And listen, I'm not getting it twisted. I think this dude's going to do whatever he wants on the side. I think that now John Jones is going to do a much better job at masking that, or maybe just not do it at all. You know, I was somebody who went through, some stuff with like substance and just drinking, drinking and doing some other things that I just, one day I was just like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. And there was a few times when I tried to quit and I wasn't ready to quit. And I was just like, it's kind of, it wasn't, looking back, the consequences weren't great enough until I absolutely had to, or blank was going to happen. And I think all of those blanks, fill them in, man, were terrible, terrible steps in John Jones's life. And at 30, right now, if he comes back, this could be the greatest 5 fight years of everyone's life.
Well, and that's for all my questions about the Tiger Woods of his, that whole question, there's the flip side. And the flip side is that he wasn't performing to his best of abilities. He wasn't doing what he could have done, and he was still I'm just going to put it the way he put it. He's the baddest motherfucker on the planet.
Yeah.
And he was doing all that while partying. So the flip side of that is now that he's cleaned his life up, he's not partying, and he's not drinking, and he's not doing, going out the night before the fight or 2 nights before the fight partying. How scary could this dude be?
I think at the worst, what was he? He was just doing like coke and drinking, right?
Yeah, and partying.
So, there's not real long-term effects of that, even done to excess. And, I don't tell people that, so young people think that that's okay. But, unfortunately, if you get caught up in that, you can have liver damage for drinking too much. That's for sure. But if you make it out of that cycle, get sober, you can get yourself back to a state of homeostasis or even better. And I think John Jones is for sure there. Guy looks incredible. And I think as long as he's not using to excess, man, I think for sure he's going to have some more in the tank. And at this age too, I think at 30, I remember, that was only 7 years ago. So feeling from 30 to 35, this incredible, just better sense of my body that I feel like I've carried on to now. It's like that man strength that they talk about.
Well, yeah,
can you imagine if John Jones only had boy strength before?
Well, the prime, we talk about athletes, the prime of their careers, every sport is a little different. But if you're talking about basketball, Michael Jordan got his best in his late 20s, early 30s. LeBron James right now in his late 20s, early 30s. Tom Brady, the prime of his career was his mid 30s. Early 30s to mid 30s. Now he's, obviously still amazing, but he's in his late 30s now. There's a certain span of time for athletes right there in those 30 to 35 range, like you're talking about, where they really hit their peak. They really hit their athletic peak. And that's the other side of this story. When I say there are concerns, is that something that he's going through where his life was set up in a way to where he needed that to as a crutch or whatever to perform? The flip side is now that he's cleaned things up, he was out there dominating dudes and partying 3 nights before that. Now he's cleaned up his life and he's just training. He's just focused on winning and being the best mixed martial artist he can be and being the greatest ever. Holy shit. I think about how scary that dude is. You know what I mean? Think about how scary. I can't even put it into words. John Jones is the greatest talent this sport has ever known. And he did all that when he was being crazy and partying. Now, on the flip side of that, if he's cleaned his life up and he's really put things back together, oh my God. Yeah. This guy could do it all. He could be something that we'll never duplicate in the history of the sport. He could be the light heavyweight champion. He could potentially be the heavyweight champion. He could go down in history as the greatest talent. And I mean this, and I know people are going to, scoff at this because there's so much in history in boxing, but he could go down as the greatest combat sports athlete of all time. Because that's how talented John Jones is. That guy is so freaking good. I've watched him since day one. I remember when he fought Andre Guzman in his debut, and I picked Andre Guzman to win the fight because Andre Guzman was this guy from the IFL who I'd watched. He was a capoeira guy, really talented, trained with Renzo Gracie, and I was like, man, this guy's going to be a talented dude. This guy's really, if you watch his IFL fights, you're like, man, this guy's going to be a star.
You're like, I bet he's got a movement coach.
Yeah, and then out of nowhere, John Jones just beats him up, and then John Jones goes out there.
Jones fucking whips his ass.
Yeah, and then John Jones goes out there and, spinning back elbows, Stephan Bonner into the mat. I'm just like, holy shit, this dude is for real. Did you pick
Stephan Bonner?
I did not pick Stephan Bonner. After he beat Andre Guzman, I've been riding the John Jones train ever since. But this dude is insanely talented, and he is just built for this sport. So like I said, while I may have the one-sided concerns, cleaning up his life, all the lifestyle things may have, helped him, the Tiger Woods thing, there is the flip side where he cleaned his life up and now he is the focused, Michael Jordan. He is the focused Tom Brady. He is the focused, Roger Federer,
it's
whatever.
Where your
whatever
mind meets up with the body.
Wherever
finally,
sports analogy you want to bring up, he could be going on a run that we've never seen before. And this is a guy who has already had 8 title defenses and beaten 6 Hall of Famers. I mean, he could right now just be in his prime.
It's like when the mega powers explode. Yeah, oh yeah, collide.
I get chills thinking about this because I love seeing that kind of talent. And as good, and this is not me raising one guy and lowering another, as good as guys like Anderson Silva and Demetrius Johnson and some of these other guys who are supremely talented fighters have been, no one has been John Jones. I think John Jones is the greatest talent this sport has ever known. But that being said, Daniel Cormier doesn't get enough credit for what he does, and I think that's what makes this matchup so interesting, is because I think Cormier has the confidence now to believe he can beat John Jones, and man, I'm so excited about this fight on Saturday night.
He too is a bad MFer. That guy's amazing. Now, do you get chills about this? You ever get chills that Damian Maia will take your back in the middle of the night and strangle you?
That almost sounds like something out of Demolition's playbook, the way you described in the middle of the night. Here comes the Maya.
Hello, Damon. Damien. Ooh, it's Damon and Damien.
Yeah.
You guys should do a morning show together.
Yeah, that dude's nasty. This is an interesting matchup with Tyron Woodley.
You think Tyron Woodley is having those dreams?
I don't know. Woodley has faced good jiu-jitsu guys in the past. I believe it was Andre Galvao, who he fought in Strikeforce, who is a real legit grappler. Not as good as Damian Maia in terms of MMA grappling, but very good.
But in jiu-jitsu, world class, top 3 ever.
And Woodley beat him pretty soundly, and that was early in Woodley's career. It really just depends, because like I said, if Maia can secure an early takedown, and Maia just has a freakish way of getting guys to the mat when you don't think he's going to do it, because he has made it no secret what he plans to do to every opponent. Now he's stopped. He's not keeping it a secret anymore about he's going to try to get you to the ground and submit you. You know what I mean? And if he can do that early to Tyron Woodley, watch out.
I love that was a secret before.
Well, Maia,
I might do some jiu-jitsu, maybe the punch. I do the punch 1, 2, and then jiu-jitsu for sure.
Maia got into a habit where he was striking a little bit more. When he fought some guys, he got in that, and that's when he got knocked out by, was it Marquardt? I think it was when he jumping knockout. I remember that one.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah.
He got a little bit too much into the boxing, and he got away from what got him to the race. And I see that a lot with wrestlers.
Hand jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Now he's just like, screw it. I'm getting you to the ground, and I'm going to submit you.
Strangle you. I'm going to strangle the crap out of everyone.
And it's an interesting matchup. I like it. You're just not, with that fight, you're just not going to have the heat.
I like it, though, because he's bringing a different, Eddie Bravo's talked about this in the past. It's that next level, that next wave of jiu-jitsu fighter into mixed martial arts. Everybody's been waiting for it. Hoist came in and completely shocked the world, right? Well, everybody caught up, obviously. High-level wrestlers started to enter MMA. Things changed. The jiu-jitsu guy kind of, as a dominant force, went away. Jiu-jitsu was there as a tool, no doubt, all the time. Not saying that, but Damian Maia sort of brings it back to that hero status where in these academies across the country, people can all cheer together no matter what lineage that you train with or train under. He's a guy that represents jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I think that that's sort of his mission. Damian Maia is a very respectable kind of guy, and I don't know, man. I think Tyron Woodley is going to, Dean Thomas is one of his coaches, a good friend of mine, but I think he's going to have a tough time.
Yeah, I agree. This is an interesting, and the thing about this was I was actually, I put out a bunch of pictures yesterday from the press conference of the face-offs and stuff, and Pat Miletich, Pat Miletich.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He had tweeted at me and he said that's the fight that he's most excited about for this card, is Woodley and Maia. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I don't know about most, but I mean it's up there.
Well, here's the thing: is you're not going to get the trash talk, you're not going to get the build up that you're going to get with Cormier Jones. But when you're just talking about pure skill and pure interest in a fight, I'm very interested in this fight because Woodley presents a lot of problems for Damian Maia, but Maia has that one weapon that is so good that you can't discount him. And if he gets into a scramble and if he can find a way to just drag Woodley to the ground or just jump on his back,
Yeah, but Woodley, is confident in his wrestling. So, like, you think that he would entertain the idea of grappling with Damian Maia?
He could. I mean, look at what he did. I mean, when he fought.
I mean, if he does, like, how dangerous is?
Well,
I mean,
Woodley is a pretty short welterweight. He's not a big, tall welterweight. You know what I mean? So it's going to be harder for him to keep Maia at a distance.
Yeah, and you're talking about a middleweight, a true middleweight.
And so you're going to have to with Woodley. He's going to have to. I mean, listen, Woodley has plenty of knockout power. He can put Maia out quickly. Okay. But he has to get inside to do that. And that getting inside to do that, when he pressures him, gives Maia at least a small opening to try to drag him to the mat and grab onto a leg. Because Maia doesn't care how he gets you to the ground. He doesn't care if he drags you into his guard. He doesn't care if he gets a leg sweep. He doesn't care if he jumps on your back. As long as he gets you to the ground, that's all he cares about. And that's a dangerous game to play when you have to get inside, because Woodley is not the kind of typical long rangey puncher. He's a guy who gets inside and just destroys you like he did Robbie Lawler when he won the title. So he's going to have to get inside to really do that damage to Maia, and that's where Maia will try to take advantage of that spacing and get it to the ground. So it's a really intriguing matchup. It's one of those fights that you just watch for the pure enjoyment of watching the fight. You're not watching it because there's some epic rivalry or some real big storyline attached to the fight. It's just a fun fight, and it kind of sucks for them because ultimately, your people aren't going to be paying as much attention to them going into the fight because, they're not going to say anything bad about each other. There's not going to be heated stare downs, but really when you get to the actual fight itself, it's an amazing fight.
And it's so funny that we've gotten so far away from that actually, I don't know, they're not going to talk a lot of trash, guys, but it's going to be an amazing fucking fight. Oh, is that all? It's going to be an incredible fight. And Pat may be right. That may be the best fight of the night for sure. I mean, the hype is around Jones Cormier too, just because of the return of John Jones. On any other card, Woodley Maia headlines, and I think that they were trying to keep Maia out of the title discussion for a long time. I'm so glad to see him there. In this sort of shape, ready to go. It's going to be really interesting. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, another matchup that's on the card for one of our guests this week is, and I love it, is Aljamain Sterling against Renan Barao. That's another classic matchup of a guy who is a tremendous takedown defense, tremendous punching power in Renan Barao, and you got a guy in Aljamain Sterling who wants to get him to the ground. He wants to show off his grappling. And that's a really, really interesting matchup on the prelims. We're going to talk to Aljamain Sterling in just a second, but that's a really interesting matchup. That kind of style, because I think Renan Barao has the most ridiculous takedown defense. I think statistic wise, he has like the best takedown defense in the UFC, or one of the highest rates of takedown defense.
Well, training with Jose Aldo for years,
but he's back. They're doing this fight at 140, which is interesting because California wouldn't let him cut to 135. Which I thought was really interesting.
So it's a catchweight.
There had to be. California wouldn't let him cut because don't forget, Renan Barao, when he passed out. Was
that in California?
That was in California. It was in Sacramento. I kind of applaud the California commissioner for saying, you know what, we're not going to let you do it again. You're going to have to fight at 140. I kind of enjoyed that because the guy passed out and canceled the fight the last time he tried to get to 135 in California. They're like, we're not letting you do it again. But this is a really interesting matchup because Barao has won. I think, what did he go, 1-1 at featherweight or 2-1 maybe?
Yeah.
But he didn't look great. And then you start to wonder, did TJ Dillashaw steal his soul with those two losses? You know what I mean? Because TJ put it on him. I mean, TJ really put it on him. And Aljamain is a supremely talented kid. This is a really interesting matchup to me. I love this matchup.
I do too, man. Renan Barao was always one of those guys that was just phenomenal. I saw the fight with him and TJ live, and it was cool to see him fight live. Didn't work out for him that night.
That was in Chicago, right?
Yeah, in Chicago. That was a great fight card. But this is going to be a great interview, man. Aljamain Sterling from New York, New York. Let's talk to him, man. Him one-on-one with Damon Martin here on the Fight Society podcast.
And how's everything with you?
Pretty good. Just got to the gym.
Good stuff, man.
All right.
You got a few minutes to chat with me?
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool, man. So how's everything? Obviously, a fight, I assume, is still 3 weeks away. I know there was some chatter about this whole weight discrepancy thing, but I'm assuming everything's still good to go for July 29th.
I believe so. At least in my mind, everything is still good to go.
This whole
the show must go on.
Yeah, this whole situation was kind of a mess because of the whole weight situation and the California State Athletic Commission telling Barao he couldn't fight at 135. It has to be at 140. I know you had asked the UFC to make a concession, to maybe pay you a little bit more for accepting a fight at a catch weight. I mean, walk me through this whole situation and where you stand right now. Like, I mean, is it annoying? Is it frustrating? Like, where do you stand right now?
Where do I stand right now? At this point, I just want to punch somebody in the face. I'm ready to get paid. I'm ready to get after it, and I'm ready to mix it up. There's just I got a whole lot of emotions right now going into this one. I'm just doing my third fight for the year. It's going to be the third biggest name, that I fought, and another opportunity for me to really catapult myself into that spotlight that I've been trying to get to for so long, and it just kept avoiding me for the better of 2 years, almost 2 years at this point. Would have liked to have gotten paid more? Yeah, that was kind of frustrating that they wouldn't honor that, even though they're the ones that booked the fight, and I think they would have had to have known to some degree that California would have done something like this. And I even said it in the very beginning. I was like, I am highly surprised that he's going to be able to fight at California at 135. And sure enough, about a month later, halfway into training camp, this comes up. And it was very similar to the Sunshine situation where my fight had to get pushed back. And I was in a great place for the December 9th card in Albany. And to have that fight pushed back almost a month and a half later, I don't know. I feel like it kind of just takes away from the anticipation, that buildup that you had, and to kind of just have the rug pulled from underneath you a little bit. So for this one, I didn't want to push the fight back. I feel good. I want to stay where I'm at right now. My physical shape is good right now. I just want to get to the fight and get it done. That's really all I care about. Get to the fight, get it done, put my hands on this guy. And I'm ready for a bloody fight. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. To that point, Aljamain, you go through weight cutting. You're a wrestler. You go through weight cutting, and you've gone through weight cutting. What were your thoughts on, the California Commission kind of stepping in and making making this rule basically to say they're not going to even let him try to make 135? I mean, is there one side of you that's kind of sympathetic and saying it's a good idea, or was there just the whole thing saying, maybe we shouldn't have fought in California in the first place if he's not actually going to be able to make the weight?
Yeah, it was supposed to be Dotson. I 100% do agree and side with the California State Athletic Commission based on what they're just trying to do. And I know they already moved up about 10 guys up a weight class. And I think they're doing a great thing, man. Regardless, Barao and I are about the same size. So am I still fighting a guy at the same weight? Yes. But the advantage is for me to make a weight class and recover where he can't do the same plays into my playing field. It's the whole reason why we have weight classes in the first place. So if I'm looking for any legal and regulated advantage that I can get, that was my advantage that they just took from me completely, UFC and California. But at the same time, I do get it. But you cannot tell me that they didn't think or know that this was going to happen and they didn't wait till later to bring this up and then put me in a position where I'm now the bad guy if I back out of the fight, or if I ask for a different opponent, or if I ask for more money, which I think I'm entitled to asking for all those things because I signed a contract at such weight, which was bantamweight, and to change the stipulations of that later on doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you ask me, and then not to be rewarded or compensated for it doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. We're in the hurt business of prize fighting, no one's fighting for free. Some of these guys, like the whole Barao camp, for some reason they think anyone is scared. I'm like, how can someone be scared who jumped at the opportunity? I had the option between him and Dotson, the guy who point fights and runs away, or the guy who actually gets in there and tries to mix it up between him and John Dotson. So I took the harder fight. So are you going to sit here and call me a coward and a liar for telling you the truth? You make zero sense. I'm just smart about this. This is a sport. This is a career. And this could be life-changing, physical-changing things that happen to you when you step into that octagon. You just never know what's going to happen. So for me to want to look out for my own health and benefit and make sure I'm compensated somewhat decently, I think that's more than fair and more than right. And like I said, somewhat decently, because we should be getting paid a heck of a lot more for what the hell we do, especially for us guys who are in the top 10 and top 5 of the divisions.
Yeah. When you're approaching a fight, the main focus, of course, is always getting physically ready and getting yourself, mentally prepared for the battle ahead. But I think a lot of people forget that this is still a business. You're getting paid to do a job, and just like anything else, you feel like you should be compensated fairly. But in a situation like this, I mean, if Barao had missed weight, they would have taken, 20% of his purse and given it to you, and that's and it's out of your control, but it's kind of what's happening here, right? I mean, they're basically saying we're not even going to allow him to cut down, so we're going to have to make this 5 pounds heavier. So in a way, it's almost like they're kind of making him miss weight anyways. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of what I feel like when you talk about the financial compensation, because if he couldn't make 135, you would probably get 20% of his purse.
I would definitely get 20% of his purse. And if we were to get fight of the night bonus, I would get that bonus too. So I just, they take every single advantage or I guess pro for this situation. They take all those pros away from me, and they just kind of just make it as if it's a fight. I don't even know if this even puts me one step closer to the title. I have no idea what this does for me. But it's been so wacky and weird with everything with the UFC of late in terms of who gets a title shot and who gets what. It's not black and white. There's just so much gray area. You really never know what can possibly happen. So at the end of the day, I just gotta do my part, and I just got to win. That's really all I got to do, win and look good doing it.
Yeah. You face all kinds of different people, in the UFC, from guys you have a lot of respect for to guys that maybe, you end up talking trash with a little bit. When you get ready to fight a guy like Renan Barao, who is a former champion and at one time was considered the best bantamweight in the world, and then he kind of makes that Instagram post that you referenced earlier where he comes out and says you're a coward, like all this kind of crazy stuff. Like, does your respect for a guy like that change when he does say things like that, or do you have to put that out of your mind and just focus on the fight?
No, I'm just focused on the fight, but it's either his Portuguese translator down there is not doing a good job using Google Translate, or he's just not very bright. So it's one or the other. He's not very. I don't know. He's not a very smart guy from what I can already tell. Man, we were at the athlete retreat, and I remember being next to him a few times. I came up to him actually and said, hello, and I just got this weird vibe. It was weird. Him, Almeida, John Lineker, all in this little Brazilian group of just, the Brazilian bantamweights. It's all like hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. They're walking around with each other the entire weekend. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I'm like, these guys are all the same weight class. These guys are all different camps, and they're going to eventually all have to fight each other. So it was I just found that very, very odd. I mean, it's one thing to be cordial with somebody, but these guys are all hanging out with each other like they were best friends, and then I feel like they were kind of giving me like these weird looks. Even Almeida, who I was very cordial with when he fought Cody Garbrandt and I fought Brian Caraway, and I remember him coming up to me and said, "I hope you beat up Caraway because I can't stand that guy," or something like that, and some broken English thing he tried to say, but I didn't get that. So I kind of got a weird vibe from those guys, kind of like they were sizing me up or something, in their little Mean Girls Club and saying whatever it is that they want to say in Portuguese. But it is what it is, So I'm gonna fight every single one of those guys at some point. I've asked for Lineker. I'm gonna fight Almeida at some point. And I didn't think was come back down. He came back down, and that's the fight I jumped all over. So I think this is a good fight for me. He says he's going to knee me in the face if I try to take him down, and this fight's going to be standing. I'm like, okay, that's what I want. I want the stand-up fight. I want you to think it's going to be a stand-up fight, because to me, this is an MMA fight. I learned my lesson against a Sun Sao, just fighting one-dimensional, and it's going to be a completely different fight. And I am so excited to get my hands on the guy.
Yeah. What do you expect out of Renan Barao in this fight? Because when he was at bantamweight, before, he looked like like a wrecking machine, and then he ran into TJ Dillashaw on 2 different occasions, and then he had the weight cutting issues and stuff like that, and then he had a couple fights at featherweight. I believe it was 1-1 in featherweight. He had a decent showing, and he had the loss to Jeremy Stevens. I mean, what do you expect out of Renan Barao? Because I think he's a bit of an anomaly right now, because he doesn't look quite like the guy he was when he was just running through everyone at bantamweight. But I'm kind of confused myself. Like, I don't know what to expect out of this guy.
I don't know what to expect. I'm just going to expect the best Renan Barao that I can possibly remember. And I'm just going to make sure I'm prepared on all facets of the sport. BJJ, wrestling, boxing, counter-striking, reactive takedowns, clinch work, mental warfare. It's going to be everything. This is going to be everything you can ask for in a fight. I hope he's taking me serious because I'm definitely taking him serious. And he says no one's been able to take him down. I beg to differ. I think TJ's took him down, I think, once or twice when they fought, even though he decided not to keep him down there. He just took him down just to take him down and, just mixing it up a little bit. And that's what this fight is going to be. It's going to be the same exact thing. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the first guy to shoot in this fight. Guarantee. I would not be surprised.
How, you mentioned earlier about the whole, does a win here even get you that much closer to a title shot? And admittedly, the path to a title in the UFC is about as difficult to understand these days as anything else. But in your head, I mean, this is still a big win, right? I mean, Renan Barao is a former champion, even though technically it's taken place at 140. This still feels like a big fight for you. And as you mentioned, this is a guy that when you had the opportunity to fight him, you jumped at it. I mean, getting a win over Renan Barao is still a big moment, right?
Getting a win over Renan Barao is going to be huge for my career. He's only lost to one guy, and that's T.J. Dillashaw at bantamweight. So for me to be the next guy to beat a guy who was considered once by Dana White as the pound for pound greatest of all time in history, undefeated for more than a decade, I think that does wonders for my career. That's a huge feather in my cap. There's nothing more there's no other fight out there that could be more exciting unless it was like a Dominic Cruz or a TJ Dillashaw or even against a Cody Garbrandt. This is the guy who's beat the who's of the division, the past, the present, and if I could be that next guy to dethrone him, that's gonna be something memorable for me. Plus, it's 2 days before my birthday, so that's gonna be a huge win. That's just gonna be a complete shit show. So. I'm excited, man. I am really excited. I just know fans can expect one thing, and that's for me to come forward, use my feints, land my kicks, land my punches, and take this guy down and put him on his back. And once I do that, I mean, I'm going to be looking for submissions and looking for ground and pound and looking to put that guy away. I think round 2 or round 3 is going to be where that fight ends.
Yeah, I love it. With that said, Aljamain, you mentioned earlier that, you've been preparing for July 29th, and after the changes that happened with the Sunsal fight, you mentioned how you didn't want to have that change again, even with all this other stuff going on. But do you feel like this is a good spotlight for you? Because it is on a very big card, arguably the biggest card of the year. I mean, you got 3 title fights. It's kind of a big spotlight for this card at UFC 214, when maybe you could have fought a week earlier in Long Island. I mean, that's closer to home for you. Your teammate, Chris Weidman's fighting on that card. Or were you happy with this, this kind of spotlight on this card being the biggest card of the year?
Yeah, this is a huge card. I didn't even realize how big of a card it was until I actually looked at the lineup a few days ago. From top to bottom, it's pretty stacked with a lot of marquee names and a lot of fights that mean something in everyone's respective divisions.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier with Renan Barao, throughout his entire career, he's only been beaten twice at bantamweight. Both were with T.J. Dillashaw. He's only been dominated by one guy, and that's T.J. Dillashaw. It's a pretty big moment if you can go out there and do exactly what you're saying, right? I mean, going out there and dominating Renan Barao, it doesn't look like you're looking for a 3-round war. It looks like you're trying to go out there and dominate and put this guy away.
Definitely. I'm not sure if Renan Barao in Brazil, if they have what we call JanSports, but let's call it backpack. I'm looking to backpack the shit out of him July 29th.
I love it. Aljamain, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you, buddy. I appreciate you taking the time, man. Safe training, safe travels out to California, man, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
See you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Cast. Aljamain Sterling with Damon Martin. It's interesting that he's a UFC fighter because I feel like his name could also fit into NASCAR.
Aljamain Sterling. Yeah, it could a little bit. I never thought about that.
You know what I'm saying?
Could a little bit. Yeah.
Sterling. I feel like that's like a very strong NASCAR name.
Yeah.
But there will be no racing.
No racing.
Yeah, what did Dale Earnhardt used to say? Rubbing is racing.
Rubbing is racing.
Yeah, maybe rubbing's fighting.
All I know about racing, I don't watch NASCAR, but I watched over the weekend or last week before I left for Comic-Con, I was watched Ricky Bobby, Talladega Nights.
You thought you watched NASCAR.
That's my
Watched a parody of a NASCAR.
That's what I think about. That's what I think about NASCAR, dude. Is when I think about NASCAR, I think of Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, did you watch the race this weekend? Yeah, sure did. Oh, you mean in real? I watched. No, I did not.
I did not watch the real one.
So, if you had to pick, now that you talked to Aljamain, who would you pick?
I'm leaning Aljamain because I think he has figured out a few things from his loss from Brian Caraway and the loss to Rafael Suns out, which both of them were very, very close fights. He came back from that, and I got to be honest, I got a lot of questions about Barao right now. I think Barao is in one of those situations where he lost those fights to Dillashaw, and I just don't know that he'll ever be the same again. So I think it's a combination of Aljamain kind of being on the rise and Barao being a little bit on decline.
Important question. Is Brian Caraway and Misha Tate still together?
I don't know.
Are they still together?
I have no idea.
No, you don't know?
I don't know.
Can we get on that? Because I felt like I heard they broke up.
They might have.
Not like it means shit for me.
They might have. I don't know. I haven't talked. I usually talk to Brian Caraway pretty regularly. I talk to Misha as well. I've known Misha for forever.
What?
But I usually stay in pretty good contact with Brian Caraway. But then when he got injured in his last fight, and he was supposed to fight was at Jimmy Rivera, and he got injured and dropped out of that. I believe it was a back injury. I think. I haven't really talked to him since then, so I'm not really sure what's going on with Brian.
Is that because you and Misha are together now because he got injured, or what happened?
We're not supposed to talk about that on the air, dude.
Sounds very scandalous.
Supposed to be private.
I don't know any other broadcaster or broadcast journalist that claims to talk to Misha Tate on a regular basis like that. Sounds very dirty.
Trying to make it all sketchy.
Yeah, man. I go to church and stuff, bro.
Make it all sketch. No, nothing sketchy. But yeah, so I don't know what's going on with Caraway. He's been out for a while now, and it's kind of weird too because he was on a good run. He had that win over Aljamain. You felt like maybe he was going to a fight or two away from the title, and then he gets injured, and now, look at what Jimmy Rivera did over the weekend to Thomas Almeida. Now he's in the race. You got Dominic Cruz coming back, so you kind of forget about Brian Caraway, who was right, seemingly right there, and injuries, into your opportunity.
That's right.
The Cara Parisian story, I'll never forget that. Had a title fight against Matt Hughes, got injured, dropped out, never, ever, ever got back to that point again.
That is a heartbreaking breakup story.
You never know.
Yeah, who knows? Now, a dude that I knew when I lived out in Utah, Josh Berkman,
yes,
is fighting Drew Dober, who's training with Matt Brown these days.
Yeah, the people's warrior, is that what they call it?
Yeah, the people's warrior.
I always call him the governor because
he's fighting for Mike Stidham's Ultimate Combat Experience, and I was doing some broadcasting for them.
Yeah, Berkman's a good dude. I've known Berkman for a lot of years. I joked with him because he was talking about getting into politics at one point. I told him, I said,
he might win in Utah.
I told him his nickname. I said he should change his nickname from the People's Warrior to the Governor.
Yeah, right.
What his new nickname should be.
I'm telling you, I think he would do well there.
He could. Berkman's a good guy. Berkman's a good dude. Dober's a tough matchup. What's funny about this card is when you go down, and we're going to talk to another guy here in just a little bit that's on the main card, Jimi Manuwa. Great fight with Volkan Oezdemir, a guy who's been just surprising people left and right. Came in and beat Ovin St. Preux and then just knocked out Misha Serkinov in like 30 seconds, which was crazy. So we're going to have Jimi Manuwa on here in a little bit. But Jimmy and Volkan are kicking off the pay-per-view. That's a great fight. You got Cowboy and Lawler on this card. Holy crap.
Holy shit. I was working my way there. That is like the fucking sleeper. It's the best card of the whole year.
When you look at the card top to bottom, it's good. Top to bottom, it's good. There's not a bad fight on this card. Even the early prelims are good.
Do you think some of the hype got fucked up because of Mayweather and McGregor?
Maybe a little bit, but I think they spaced it out well enough to where it didn't damage it too much. I think that it didn't help them much that last week's Fox card kind of tanked. If you looked at the ratings, it was a really bad card. It was the worst ratings in the history of the Fox cards. I don't think that helped because you want it. That a big part of the Fox cards, beyond just being a ratings machine, is it helps build into a big pay-per-view. That's traditionally, when you look at the Fox cards, they take place a week before the pay-per-view because it's free advertising for the pay-per-view, and you get a big card and it's on Fox, so it's kind of like a twofer. You get the free card on Fox, they advertise for the pay-per-view ends up being bigger. I don't know. That didn't really do them a lot of good considering how bad the ratings were for that. And I do think that a lot of the attention on Mayweather-McGregor, but I think the Mayweather-McGregor fandom has died down a little bit because you still got a month to go to the fight. We already got through the world tour. Now we can just focus on this amazing fight between Jones and Cormier. I love this fight. And I think when you look at this card, you got Woodley and Maia. And don't forget, we haven't even talked about Chris Cyborg and Tanya Evinger.
Yeah. Whatever. My girl's fighting, though. My UFC crush. Kaylin Curran.
Oh, yeah. Kylan Curran. Yeah. She's fighting. Was it Alexandra?
Kylan, did I say her name wrong?
Yeah,
oops, sorry.
She's fighting, was it Alexandra Albu is who she's fighting?
Yeah, her boyfriend is like pro surfer.
Is he?
Keanu Singh, I think his name is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which one? Who's boyfriend? Kylan Curran?
Yeah, Kylan.
Oh, okay.
I almost forgot her name again. I love her so much.
She's Hawaiian, right?
Yeah, they're both Hawaiian.
I love her so much. I don't know her name.
Stop.
I love that's my favorite tweet. My favorite tweet in the world that I see fighters respond to. My favorite in the world is the fan that goes, "You are my favorite fighter. I love you, and you're the best. Who are you fighting next?" And the guy's fighting like that weekend.
Yeah,
He's
right.
like, "Yeah, I'm fighting this weekend."
Yeah,
like you are an awesome.
I just did that.
Yeah, but I
really
love
happened to
her.
me.
I love her so much. What's her name?
Yeah. Well, how many times did she fight in the UFC? She was on The Ultimate Fighter, right?
No,
she was
no.
not.
She was like
she's the one that she was too young, right?
That was Paige Van Zandt. She was too young. Paige Van Zandt was too young.
Okay.
Kylan Curran, I think she's had like maybe 6 fights in the UFC. She's not got a great record.
No, she's 4-4.
Who?
Is
Kylan
that
Curran?
right? Yeah.
Yeah, she's lost a lot of fights in the UFC. She lost to Paige. She lost
Hey,
to
listen, they're
Felice
tough. Every fight's tough in the UFC, Damon. Like, why? What?
She's a talented
Me and
fighter.
Keanu are gonna probably ride up on you, bro. Like, what's
She's
up,
a-
War Child?
She's a War Child. Listen, if you're
Why
coming,
you being a dick on my beach, man?
if you're coming to Angelo Pappas, you better back off, son. I'm Johnny Utah over in this bitch. Back off, War Child.
It was Anthony Kiedis. Like Anthony Kiedis is coming after you.
It was the whole Red Hot Chili Peppers.
You're
wasn't
like,
it?
they're gonna give it away at any friggin' moment, guys.
Get under the bridge, War Child.
No, you just hold on 1 hot minute.
Yeah, wasn't that the whole band in that movie, or was it just Flea and Anthony Kiedis? I can't remember.
I am breaking the girl right now, okay? So serious, I will suck your kiss. I'll do it.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it was Flea. Because remember, like, they did some acting. Like,
They
all of a
did.
sudden, remember then, like, Flea was in Back to the Future.
Flea was also in Big Lebowski.
Yeah, true.
He played one of the nihilists.
Yes. that's
We
right.
believe in nothing.
Yeah. And yeah, so it was also like right around the same time, like Henry Rollins kind of went down that road too. And
Yeah.
I was always pumped. I'm like, yes,
Yeah, they were in Point Break.
absolutely. Anyhow, back to the fights. Like, I don't know. That's a terrible record that she has. Hopefully that improves. That's what I say about that.
Your girl.
Team Curran for
Yeah.
life. Oh, well.
She's a. I think the problem is she's a talented fighter, but I think she's just had some. I mean, she's just had some impossibly tough matchups, and I guess that's part of the point of being in the UFC. You don't really get easy fights, but
Yeah.
there's just not been a lot of like growing up for her in the UFC because I mean, she fought. I mean, Paige Van Zandt, that was a great fight. You remember that fight? That was amazing. It was
No,
a fight of the
absolutely.
night. But then she lost really quickly to Felice Herrig, and she's had some other tough losses in there. But she's a talented fighter. I'm kind of glad they gave her another chance without cutting her because I still think there's a lot of potential there.
Cutting her. I mean, who else is going to fight? I mean, like, come on. You can't cut people in that division. I mean, like, I feel like they're begging for people on that level. I mean, I feel like you got to let a girl like that play it out a little bit,
Yeah,
you
give
know?
her
I guess
some
she
time.
goes back to Invicta.
Well, she's not.
You know?
It's not. And the thing with Kylan Curran, it's not like she's making 6 figures.
I say, but go back. Did she ever fight in Invicta?
I don't think so.
So where was she fighting? Where? Like in Hawaii?
Local shows?
Like what's in Hawaii now?
Nothing.
They don't do what was it, Rumble in the Rock?
They did Rumble in the Rock, Super Brawl,
They don't
or
do that
Icon
anymore.
Fight, or whatever.
She's
No,
too young
it's all
for that.
gone.
She's super young.
Yeah.
I know she is.
Yeah.
Because I love her.
I don't know her name, but I love her. Yeah, she's fighting. This is a good card, top to bottom. This is a really, really good card.
She was born in 1991. She's 26.
Oh my God,
That's crazy.
That make you feel old when you hear that.
Yeah, dude. I know shirts I had in 1991.
This is
She was all just being boring. I'm like,
1991. God, when I hear that, somebody I was when I was at Comic-Con last week, somebody was talking about an actor being born in like 95. Which doesn't when you say that when you say it like that, you're like, God, that's young, but that's 22 now.
that's weird.
You know what I mean? It's 22. But when I heard they were born in 1995, I was like, oh my God, I'm old. I'm officially old. When that, like 1995.
Yeah, I'm like, I was deep in the OJ trial and you were missing out, baby.
OJ just got released, or he's getting released, paroled.
Do you watch that?
I didn't. I was on vacation, but I heard about it.
He has the guy who he committed the crime against doing call and response with him in the
parole hearing.
Parole hearing. He's sitting like just across from him, because now like they've made amends. So he was asking questions. He's like, "Oh wait. Bruce, what time were we there? Was it like 9 and 9? Bruce? Yeah, okay. Yeah, Bruce. Yeah, like 9:30. Like, what? And then this guy gets up there and he said, what happened was heinous. And OJ's like, well, I didn't see him pull the gun on you. He's like, I didn't know. OJ didn't see. It's been too many years. And he goes, let me tell you something. I love the juice so much. Here's what I'll tell you. If OJ needs a ride, juice. And he looks at him, and the juice looks at him. Everybody goes silent. I'll be there for you, juice. And then OJ starts fucking crying.
Oh,
this
my
guy's
God.
fucking crying. I'm embarrassed. I'm fucking I'm sitting with my wife. We just got done eating dinner at the new Cap City in Dublin, Ohio here.
Yes.
And sitting in our car, because, you can watch CNN on the phone. So I'm sitting there watching it like it's, it's 95 again. And just watching this play out, like, you are the only human being that can stop everybody's fucking entire life. And people are just like, whoa, yep, OJ, I'm in. Invested. Tell me more. And there I sat once again.
And they're still talking.
The whole friggin' thing.
They did the friggin' TV show last year, People vs. O.J. Simpson.
Did you
great.
watch that?
I did. It was
fucking amazing.
It was amazing. All kinds of enemies.
He couldn't have been released at a better time. I feel like it's all set up.
Who's gonna pay him for his first interview? Someone's gonna pay him.
Kris Jenner's about that cash. Have you seen all the memes online? Those are the best. She is gonna get that reality show. You're gonna see it. It's gonna be O.J. Simpson. Doing something at 70, whatever he's doing.
Yeah. OJ's celebrity is somehow indirectly responsible for the Kardashians, which is kind of weird.
Oh, 100%.
Which is weird if you think about that, because Robert Kardashian was his lawyer.
He's got to show restraint. He's terrible at collecting things that are his.
Oh my God.
So I hope he doesn't go back for his intellectual properties.
Oh my God, OJ never goes away. Yeah, I remember I was in college when that whole thing happened. With the trial. It started when I was in high school. That's how long that trial lasted. It started when I was in high school. It ended when I was in college.
No, I remember the first day I worked in radio, man. I remember I got out of school and I was like waiting, and like I thought I was going for a tour that was the beginning of my internship, and this was like pre Monica Lewinsky, so the word intern wasn't thrown around as much.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to sign up for that kind of internship. And I remember I put on like nice pants and a tie, like a jackass, and some of those like pantyhose socks, I'm talking about those pantyhose church socks.
Yeah.
And some like loafers, And I went in and everybody's like, whoa, like who's this mini car salesman? Because I was like, it's really weird, man. I got into radio when I was like 14. It was so strange. And I just remember, man, sitting there watching the OJ thing. And so fast forward to 2-3 years later, I was in the radio station and it came over before the news was real prevalent on the internet. They had this thing called the AP wire, just print news nonstop. And, I remember being there when the verdict came over. It's the biggest deal. I mean, the biggest deal. People stopped their entire lives for that.
You know what the OJ verdict was for our generation? It was the JFK. For the 60s generation, everyone remembers where they were when JFK got shot. For our generation, it was the OJ verdict. That's
no doubt.
I was in college. I was in my college dorm room, and I remember hearing it. And I remember when it read out, I was living in a college dorm room. It was an all-male dorm, and I remember hearing everyone either scream, pissed off, excited. Everyone celebrated. It was such a weird. Some guys were celebrating, other people were saying, oh my God, I can't believe they let him off, whatever. But I remember that moment. I was in between classes and I was in my dorm room, and I remember when they read the verdict, we were all watching. That was for our generation, the JFK. That is our JFK. Something you always remember where you were when you heard the OJ verdict.
I'll never forget where I was when I saw Kylie Curran for the first time. It's just a beautiful night.
I hope your wife doesn't listen to this podcast. She's going to be really jealous.
I was sitting in a chair on Instagram.
I was like, I can't remember her name, but I know she's awesome.
Anyhow, so we talked about Cerrone and Lawler a little bit.
Yeah, we got one more interview to get to, and then we should finish out talking about this.
Do you think
card.
that fight definitely ends in knockout?
I gotta imagine it does. I mean,
both those guys coming off of knockout losses.
Yeah, both guys have been knocked out. Both guys like to knock people out. I have a hard time believing they're going to survive 3 rounds together, especially the way they fight.
I love when people describe fighters as, this guy loves to knock people out. Like there's other fighters that are like, nah, pass on that. I'm not really into the whole knocking guys out
I'm not
thing.
really into that whole scene. It's not really my thing.
I was going to knock a motherfucker out. And then I was like, no. Who do we have standing by here with you?
Jimi Manuwa.
Now, Damon has had conversations without me, guys, and this is what it sounds like, where he pushed me out of the room and he got all the glory with Mr. Manuwa.
It's because you were talking about Colin Curran, so, you know.
Okay, yeah. Is she on the phone?
What's up, brother?
I'm good, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm good.
I appreciate taking a few minutes. I appreciate taking time to chat with me as always.
No worries, man. No worries. Always welcome.
So how is everything? Obviously, a fight is a little over a month away now. Obviously you got the fight at UFC 214, but not quite the fight you wanted, but still a big fight.
Yeah, I can't complain. Volkan's he's in the top 5. He's got himself in the top 5, and I'm looking forward to the challenge and meeting him. I know the future is bright for myself. Because when I beat him, there's gonna be no denying that I've got a title shot next. I'll be the contender for the winner of the main event. So the future is bright for me.
Yeah. Was there any disappointment in not getting the title fight, or did you kind of have a feeling that was gonna happen with John coming back?
I expected it, but where the fight was almost made with me, but then it got changed to John Jones, I was a little bit disappointed, but not too much, because I know it's coming. So that's it's coming this year. So I know it's not all lost, So it wasn't a big issue for me, I just had to have another opponent, and I said to Dana, how many more people have to get it before I get the title shot? How many more people do I have to put to sleep? And it seems like I have to put Volkan to sleep before I get the title shot. So that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Does it change your preparation at all, Jimmy, knowing that you are, the replacement if anything happens? Now, I don't want to play, bad news guy, but, Daniel's had to drop out of a couple of fights due to injury. John has, had to drop out of fights due to injury and also because of the drug testing thing. I mean, do you change your preparation at all, knowing you still may get pulled in that title fight?
No, not at all. I've got perfect sparring partners for anyone any one of the guys in the light heavyweight division. Today on the mat was me, Alexander, Gustafsson, Ili Latifi, Max Nunes was there. Like these are the top guys in the world, and so I've got perfect sparring partners for whether it be John Jones or whether it be Cormier.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. We got a perfect team.
Have you been impressed by Volkan Oezdemir so far in his first 2 fights in the UFC? Yeah, I've been impressed. He's a good striker. He's big and strong. It is what it is. He's top 5 in the world. That's all I need to know. He's top 5 in the world, and that's who I'm fighting. I don't look too much and study him and this and the other. I saw him fight live, be it only 28 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever. So I couldn't take much away from that. But he went 3 rounds with OSP in the fight before that, and it's gonna be levels. It's gonna be levels shown in this fight. when you fight your fight, Jimmy, you've gone out there and knocked out a lot of guys during your career. That's what you do best. Do you think this one ends any differently? And I know you have respect for Volkan. I know you want to go in there and give him the respect he deserves. But do you see this fight playing out any differently than you knocking him out?
In the fight, there will be zero respect shown. Zero respect shown. I'm going to run through this guy and give him my full force and everything, just to let him know that we're not playing. He's gonna feel the full force of what we have to give. I'm training hard for this camp and everything, and he's gonna feel the full force of Jimi Manuwa on July 29th, and everyone's gonna be there to see it, including John Jones, including Daniel Cormier, and that. Daniel Cormier says, I can fight Volkan in the little leagues and this, that, and the other. Well, we're going to see what's what.
How much, when you look at this fight, you said you told Dana White, what do you have to do? Do you feel like it is a guarantee that you knock out, you win against Volkan Oezdemir, you will get your title shot?
Yeah, it seems so. But we've got Alexander Gustafsson in the mix. We've got John Jones in the mix. It depends who wins out of the main event and stuff. Obviously, a big fight with Jones and Gus too will be big for the UFC. But to me, I know it's coming. I know I've got full confidence that the belt is coming my way. So. You see, no, I'm not sweating anything. I've got big fights lined up. I've got the David Hay fight on the back burner, waiting for him to get, waiting for him to heal up and get better. So I've got big things coming.
Yeah. What did it mean to you after Alexander won his fight and everyone was asking him about you, and he said he would be happy if you got a title shot. He'd be excited for you getting a title shot. Did that mean a lot to you that your teammate and your friend, it seems like he's on board, if you do get the title shot ahead of him, that he would be okay with that?
Yeah, of course, but it's not big news. It's not big news to me. We're friends, we're teammates, and that's what we do. We wish each other the best. Whether he gets the title shot or I get a title shot, it's not a big thing for us. We're fighters, but more importantly, we help each other every day. I just finished sparring with him this evening, and Ilir Latifi. We're all in the same weight division, but we're all in the same team. We help each other, and that's it. So him saying that it's not big news for me. I wish him the same thing as well, and I won't be pissed if he got it.
Yeah. You have made those changes to get yourself to be a better fighter. Do you believe right now though is your time? Not saying against anybody else, but does it feel like this is your time? This is your year. This is the time when Jimi Manuwa becomes champion.
100%. This is my time. After the few changes I made after my second loss of my career, that's it. I'm unstoppable. No one's stopping me now. Not any of the champions. Not anyone. I feel like I can even drop down to middleweight and take the belt there. I feel I can go up to heavyweight and take the belt there. I feel proper unstoppable right now. And my skill set and my understanding of the game and everything is I feel unstoppable.
Now this is a big hypothetical, Jimmy. But if something happened, let's say Alexander did get a title shot against Jones and he won. I thought Alexander actually won their first fight, very close. I actually scored him winning, great fight. Would you actually consider maybe testing yourself at heavyweight or middleweight to go out there and get a title? Because I know you wouldn't fight Alexander, which is fine, but would you ever consider that? Would you maybe consider a run at middleweight or even heavyweight to keep yourself busy?
Yeah, of course. But there's big fights. There'll be big fights in light heavyweight. Maybe I'll knock Cormier out see what happens. Maybe we'll play a little interim belt game. So me and Alex have both got belts or something. I don't know. Well, there's options. There's options for me. I've got a boxing fight with David Haye. What could happen? And that, so I'll definitely be busy. I could drop down to middleweight and go and take the belt there. Heavyweight, I'm not sure. I'll tell you what. I was thinking about heavyweight before until I saw Francis Ngannou face to face when he was guest fighter at what do you call it, at UFC London, and I was like, fuck me, this guy's a fucking monster. And I fuck guys a heavyweight facing him. He was fucking massive. It's crazy.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so maybe it'll be middleweight.
Jimmy, I'm curious, because you have a vested interest in the main event. Kind of a two-part question when it comes to Jones Cormier. One, who do you see winning the fight? And two, do you find yourself in a way maybe rooting more for Daniel Cormier, because it feels like you guys have a rivalry? That would be a very big fight, maybe a better chance of you getting that title fight, or does that matter to you?
No, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. I want to fight who has the belt and who is the best in the world. I believe Jones wins the fight. I don't see how. I think the only way Cormier doesn't win the fight standing up at all. Whether Jones is rusty or not, Cormier doesn't have the skill set to win the fight standing up. His best option is to take him down, and he couldn't do that. And Jones has got too much takedown defense and too good wrestling for Cormier to take him down. I think Jones has got his number, so I think Jones wins the fight. Whether Jones, I think Jones wins the fight, whether or not he's rusty. You know?
Yeah, but you and Jones would be an interesting fight as well.
Yeah, that'd be a great fight. I'd love to fight John Jones. He's the greatest of all time in the octagon. People say he's pound for pound or what's his name, Mounty Mice is pound for pound, but I believe it's John Jones. He's such a great fighter, and I'd love to test my skills against him. Yeah. It doesn't matter what he's done outside. I don't care what he's done outside of the ring, except taking performance enhancing drugs, which I totally don't agree with. But him, like his other activities and that, like, it is what it is. This is about fighting. It's not about who's the best person or that. To me, anyways, it's about fighting to me, and who's the best fighter.
Yeah,
without taking drugs.
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned it earlier, Jimmy. I'm curious because we know that this Mayweather-McGregor thing finally got announced. It sounds like you are still absolutely on board for the David Haye fight. Do you think there's still a chance that could happen?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I want it. David wants it. Dana's really interested in it, and that's all we need. It's for all parties to be on board, and all parties are on board. But I've got to concentrate on Volkan first, and then possibly concentrate on fighting for the UFC title later on this year as well. And then I think David Haye's going to be ready by the end of this year or beginning of next year. So what a fairy tale it would be if I win the UFC belt and then fight David Haye and knock him out as well. What a fairy tale that would be.
Yeah. I'm curious, Jimmy, because you obviously have, such a diverse striking background. You are a striker, you are a knockout artist, but you're also a mixed martial artist. From your side, because you could be in the same kind of a matchup, do you give Conor McGregor a chance to beat Floyd Mayweather?
You know what? I was just discussing it now with my friends in Stockholm, and there's always a chance. There's always a chance. It's two men having a fight. Floyd should have, on paper, Floyd should have the fight, but we've seen time and time again fights. Anything can happen in a fight. Anything can happen in a fight. Floyd can misjudge something, can eat a punch, and Conor punches very hard, and he could get stunned and you know. But I'll tell you one thing though, a lot of people will be tuning in to see what happens, whether or not they like the fight. And you know, I do give Conor a chance, and I wish him the best. I do give him a chance. If he shocks the world, he's going to be. What do you think? What would you think if Conor won? Imagine Conor beat Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, Conor's a superstar now. I couldn't even imagine where he would be if he knocks out or beats Floyd Mayweather. What an incredible moment that would be.
Imagine.
Yeah,
And you know what else I said to my friend? I said, imagine those two, after the fight, we win or lose or whatever, those two crazy motherfuckers linked up and did some, and just became like good friends or something like that. They'd be two crazy, rich, fucking mouthy. Oh, mate.
It would be crazy.
I'm just excited for. Yeah, it'd be crazy. I'm just excited for both fighters, and I think it's a good thing for combat sports.
Yeah. And I think Conor's performance, you know, if he goes out there and lasts 12 rounds with Floyd or wins a few rounds or knocks him out, I think it does say a lot about these.
I think exactly. And I think if Floyd wins on points, yeah, that's still a win-win for Conor. You know, because he hasn't been knocked out. He's fought the best in the world, and he's lost on points. You know.
Yeah, and I also think that does well for more future MMA versus boxing matchups, like your fight with David Haye. I know, you know, Stipe Miocic just talked about fighting Anthony Joshua and things like that. If Conor can go out there and prove the mixed martial artist can absolutely go with the best in the world in boxing, I think it sets the stage for even more of these fights down the road.
Listen, put on the fight with me and David Haye and watch him get knocked out. David Haye's not ready. He's ready for. He's ready for like a boxing, looking good, that type of thing. He's not ready for a dogfight. What I'm going to give him, you know.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Jimmy, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. I appreciate the time. Safe training in Stockholm. Look forward to seeing you in Anaheim in just a few weeks' time.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so that's going to do it for the interviews this week. I'm excited, man. This pay-per-view is going to kick ass.
I had people hit me up this week on Twitter, which is why I was like, we got to do this. I had like 3 different people hit me up, like, where's the Fight Society podcast talking about UFC 214? You're pissing me off. You haven't had a podcast. I was on vacation until Monday, and so when I came back, dude, I decided to, I flew home on Sunday night going into Monday morning, and I'm just going to throw them under the bus. I flew United. They had a really cheap deal. So I flew United. Never fly United. I usually fly American or Delta. But they had a really cheap deal. I'm not going to fly United again.
Wow. Did you get roughed up?
No, they like, oh my God, it was just the worst. So like we were in Chicago. We had like a 2.5 hour layover. We're in Chicago waiting to board our plane to Columbus. We were supposed to be home like 9 a.m. on Monday morning. I didn't get home until like afternoon. I had like from Chicago. It's a 40-minute flight. First, so the jet bridge to get on the plane, there was some kind of malfunction, so they couldn't let us on. So the plane was there.
You're like, I'll just run from here, and then I'm going to jump.
I was like, can I jump on the plane?
How about that?
So they wouldn't let us on the plane. That delayed forever. And then we finally got on the plane, and the plane, and it was, full flight. Okay, I get that.
It's weird that they don't go old school with the steps. Remember, you would go up the steps?
There's still places that do that. And I think
like the smaller planes.
Yeah. So we get on the plane, and, we're whatever, group 4 of group 6, whatever. So we're group 4 of 6. And we get on the plane, and we're like, there's like, it's a line of people. And we got our carry-ons, and we get all the way back to our seats. And at that point, the flight attendant dude is like, I don't think we have room for bags anymore, overheads. And I'm like, okay. And so like he's trying to play Tetris to move things around and make room for people's bags, whatever. Can't find a room. I was like, and I'm standing in the aisle. Now I'm 6'3". I'm a big dude. It's not easy for me to just move around a plane. You know what I mean? Like whatever. And he's just like, could you step into your seat and we'll try to figure this out? And I'm like, where am I going to go? I got my luggage. I got 2 bags with me. And you're now telling me I don't have a place to put my bags. couldn't you have, because sometimes they'll make the announcement ahead of time, like, we're going to have to have you check your
right.
bags. They didn't do that. They literally let like 40 people on the plane, all holding their bags with nowhere to put their bags. So everyone had to exit out of the plane, give up their bags, get tags, and then get back on the plane. I mean, that's why I was so pissed off. I was like, you tell me that I have to check my bag, fine. I don't like it, but I'll do it. But don't let me get on the plane and let 40 more people get on the plane behind me, and all of us are now told we can't do it. So when they finally told us, there's literally a line of like 30 to 40 people have to
go
exit,
back out?
Go back out again,
What
give them the luggage, get the tags, all that stuff, and then get back on the plane again.
Wait a second. Did you get a voucher?
Yeah, they give you like the little tag or whatever for your thing.
No.
They didn't give a shit.
What? You had to tweet. You have to tweet them.
I did, and they didn't do nothing. They just said, "Oh, I said after the guy got yanked off the plane, I should have known better than flying United, but I took it anyways."
I should have came up behind you demolition style, and you should have taken like a hit, go to the ground, sell it a little bit, and just like, oh my god,
it's over.
You believe it, people,
So anyway, so Monday was kind of rough. So because I hadn't slept, like we went from San Diego, we left San Diego at like 10 o'clock on Sunday night. We didn't get home until like noon on Monday.
Are there any fighters out there?
I know Angela Hill and Jessica Penne were there. I didn't see them, but I know they were there. I usually run into fighters. I didn't run any fighters this year, which is weird. But yeah. So anyway, so by the time I got home on Monday, I was exhausted. But then I had an interview on Monday, and then I did the media conference call on Monday with Jones and Cormier. So like I didn't really get to sleep. So I was like passed out on Tuesday. I was like so exhausted. So this was like kind of the first day we could get together to do the podcast because people were giving me shit. They're like, "Get on there. We're waiting for the podcast. We're waiting for this 214 breakdown." So we had to do it.
What do you think, man? I was kind of glad there wasn't like a lot of like fucking hoopla with this, like where they're throwing stuff at each other and everybody's mad. And, with the whole Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, I think you got to pick and choose like all of the insane violence before the fights.
They had some, they had some moments. The press conference yesterday was kind of funny when John Jones said, Daniel Cormier looked like a crackhead in a suit, and Daniel Cormier fired back and said, "At least I've never actually been a crackhead." So that's
awesome.
That was hilarious. There's a time and place for it for everything, and I think they had their moment in 2014 when they got into an actual brawl in the middle of the MGM Grand.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
like,
you can't do that every time. You know what I mean?
No, but that kind of set the precedent, right? Because that was so fucking. Remember, like we debated that with and Matt was in here, and we were like, "Dude, was that?" Because it was kind of like floating around. Everybody was like, is it a work? Cormier's such a huge WWE fan. Like, do you think that? Because at that point, like most martial artists would not take it that far.
But when they hate each other as much as these guys do.
But when they hate, start hating.
Yeah. Like, I think at UFC, was it UFC 196 or 202? I can't remember, with Conor and Nate. When they did their face-off and Conor slapped away Nate's hand. Yeah. I think, and this is not a slight, I think he did that knowing they weren't really going to do anything. Like, they were going to separate them immediately, you know what I mean? But it made for a great story, you know what I mean? Made for a great moment. And I think, because Conor, I think, is the most calculated promoter in this business. I think he knows everything he's doing. There's a method behind it. He knows exactly what he's doing. And I'm not bashing him. I'm commending him for that. You know what I mean? He knew if he slapped Nate's hand away, they're not really going to let him fight. They're going to separate him. You know what I mean? They're not going to get into a big brouhaha in the middle of the stage. But he knew that was going to play out. Everyone's going to talk about that for days. Them being separated and the security coming up, blah, 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 blah. I think with Jones Cormier, that was just organic. These guys hate each other.
Oh, no doubt it was real.
You know what I mean?
No,
like
but
that wasn't one of
in the midst of it happening, though.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
So over the top.
But that's what I think. Like with the Conor thing, I think that was a calculated move. Like, boom, let me slap his hand away and let's see. Oh my God, they're gonna fight.
No, you're absolutely right. No, I agree with you. You're absolutely
with Cormier Jones. I think it was Cormier Jones put his head on Cormier. Cormier pushed him, and then boom, shit went off.
Because there is, and I can tell you that from competition. Like when you get in that space, and there's like you, and then you're talking shit, and then there's more shit, and then you say about all the shit you can say, and then you're there, and then there's only one more step, and everybody said this too. I mean, because you can only talk so much, and until like you like trigger, and then it's like it's go time. So there is an art to that, and I think that in a fight, you never have to say it to the other guy. But if me and you are gonna fight, when we sign that contract, I think it's an understood thing that we're going to promote the fight, but I'm saying that I'm going to respect you as a competitor and as a man and not invade completely your personal space. And I think touching the face or something like that, is, if he would have like lightly slapped him in the face, that would have been a huge deal. In the hand, because you can kind of be like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Hand, come on.
Yeah, they're fighters. I mean, they're fighters. That's ultimately what they do. They're fighters.
You slap the face. That's crazy. Like, it's so funny how on the anatomy, you just move up just a little bit. That is so offensive, it's unthinkable.
It's on.
Yeah, it's on like fucking crazy. It's on. Scrap Pack in the house.
Yeah,
Let's
dude.
go.
It's so funny. I talked to Jake Shields last week or 2 weeks ago.
You did? What'd he say?
He's got a fight this weekend. Actually, he's fighting in Professional Fighters League, and I was talking to him about that Diaz McGregor press conference when he chucked the coffee. Do you remember that?
Yeah, totally.
He actually was like, "I apologize to the journalist whose coffee I stole. I have no idea who it was, but I apologize for stealing your coffee and throwing
so funny.
But I was like, dude, you're like Jake Shields is like one of literally the nicest guys I've ever met in this sport, like one of the soft-spoken, really nice guys, but somehow he keeps getting involved in these situations. He was in the Diaz-McGregor thing, and he was also in the Mayhem Miller thing. Remember that back in Nashville?
Yeah, totally.
When they got into a brawl. I was like, what is it with you and brawls, dude? Like, you just keep getting in the middle of these things.
I just think some people are nice people, and then, like, they just, you want to mess around and say some stuff. Like, some people are just, like, they don't take stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you could say, like, da-da-da-da-da, and jaw back and forth with certain folks. Other guys are just about some shit, and not saying that the other guys aren't. Maybe they're just better at controlling whatever, and sometimes it comes from like, you took so much shit when you were younger, and now that you are, especially like if you're a guy like Jake Shields, you definitely take care of yourself. So, now you're definitely about some shit. And you're not afraid to say it to somebody.
That's like the Diaz brothers. When the Diaz brothers get into a mix with somebody, there is never a moment of fakeness in any of it. Like, I feel like those dudes are just waiting for something bad to happen.
Yeah, I really do believe, like where you grow up, because I remember like middle school. I grew up in South Florida, and like, there were so many different cultures that were all shoved in them. That was like in the 90s when they were doing like busing.
Yeah.
And so, like, you just took people from all different directions and neighborhoods. It didn't matter. And they were like, oh, we're just going to, man, quality. We're going to put everybody. And it was a nightmare because no one knew each other. A lot of people, you lost friends that went to other schools. And then in the end, it was scary as shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because if you weren't ready to go at all times, I mean, you're talking about like middle school. And I feel like, that times a million in California and Stockton at the time they were growing up, man. I just think that you got to grow up pretty hard.
Yeah.
Pretty hard, ready to go at all times.
Speaking of the Diaz brothers, this weekend, the main event on, was it FS1, Ricardo Lamas against Hick Diaz, Jason Knight. Remember him? Jason Knight?
Yeah.
They call him Hick Diaz.
That's awesome.
This whole card is so good.
Now, wait a second. So what is Jake, what is that league that he's fighting in?
Professional Fighters League. It used to be World Series of Fighting. They just changed their...
What? So that's what that's called now?
Professional Fighters League, yeah.
Professional Fighters
They're
League.
fighting on Saturday night. Kind of ill-timed card because it's going up against UFC 214.
World Series of Fighting.
Yeah, so now they're Professional Fighters League. But it's a good card. Andre Harrison.
Both those names are terrible.
Yeah. But Andre Harrison is fighting. Jake Shields is fighting. It's not a bad card. It's just unfortunately it's going up against UFC 214.
The Professional Fighting League World Champion. I guess so.
Yeah. You're coming up with names for fight leagues. I mean, I guess there's only so many you can do without, at some point, it's going to sound corny.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to sound corny, so we're going to get out of here. You guys have an awesome, awesome day, and we'll get back at you next week. If you guys want to contact us on social media, at Jeremy Loper, you can hit me up at any time. You can tweet us during the fight. Use the hashtag Fight Society.
Yes.
And we'll find you. You can find Damon Martin at Damon Martin. He's got a terrific website, nerdcoremovement.com. If you guys love like The Walking Dead and television and stuff like that, you can check him out. And check us out here. Usually on Tuesday. So we'll get back on.
Back on schedule next week.
Yeah, our Tuesday track. The summer. Things happen. You go to the pool and whatnot.
Go on vacation.
Yeah. Check out my radio show daily. If you go to Loper, LOPERAND, Randy, RANDI.com, you can see what's up there. Next week, my friends, will recap 214 and so much more.